L'auto, journal d'idées et d'action, va lancer à travers la France aujourd'hui les inconscients et rudes semeurs d'énergie que sont nos grands routiers professionnels. De Paris aux vagues bleues de la Méditerranée, de Marseille à Bordeaux, en suivant les routes roses et rêveuses, endormies au soleil, en longeant la Loire qui coule tranquille et silencieuse, nos hommes vont pédaler, passionnément, inlassablement.
Jean-Christophe et moi-même, à toutes et à tous la bienvenue pour la cérémonie de présentation du plus grand événement sportif.
It's a cliche thing, but we're all for one for all, and that's how we work, and that's how we win.
Merci à Marc-Lévich, bonne chance. Donc à Michael Rogers, merci messieurs. Bonsoir la presse 2009, à Rogers, à Rachel.
We are tucked under the Alpes-Maritimes mountains. If you go left as you leave town, you're in France. If you go right, you go to Italy.
This is the second smallest country in the world, so you couldn't really have a 15.5-kilometre bike race inside it. And that's why we have to make that slight incursion onto French soil for a while.
Du Critérium international, du Tour de Suisse, du Tour de Normandie, ainsi que du Tour Bavière, quatrième du prologue de Paris-Nice. Attention à ce coureur, je vous propose de l'applaudir, Tony Martin. Il est au départ, 7 fois vainqueur de l'épreuve. Allez, un tonnerre d'applaudissements pour le retour de Lance Armstrong. Cette victoire, Big George, il vient de s'élancer. Voilà derrière George Capi.
Mark Cavendish, Columbia, en 13 minutes et 23. Mark Cavendish, le fondeur de basket en 2000.
Aujourd'hui, c'est l'une des grandes stars du sport. Au départ, Lance Armstrong.
This is unbelievable. The winner of the Tour of Italy is 20 metres in front of Fabian Cancellara, the winner of the Tour of Switzerland. The catch is real as they approach the finish. And look at that, Menchov is struggling now. He won't believe this. Remember, they started a minute and 30 seconds apart.
superb race by Fabian Cancellara.
What a great job Monaco has done for the opening day of the Tour de France. It began over 100 years ago as a publicity stunt by the newspaper Lotto. Georges Lefebvre, a young cyclist turned reporter, boldly suggested they invent a race unparalleled in its demands. He claimed they could win the attention of a country torn by politics. The editor, Henri Desgrange, was also a cyclist, and so it began. The arena would be all of France, and the gladiators would be cyclists, riding heavy steel frames on rims of wood with a single gear. They would battle the elements, the unpaved roads, the spectators, and above all, themselves. On July the 1st, 1903, 60 men left the village of Montgeron near Paris. Among them, not just professionals, but amateurs, some unemployed, some simply adventurous. Lauter reported, the men waved their hats, the ladies their umbrellas. One felt they would have liked to touch the steel muscles of the most courageous champions since antiquity. Who will carry off the first prize, entering the pantheon where only supermen may go? There's no other sporting event on an annual basis that matches up to the Tour de France as an achievement. The very first time I came home from the race, I said to my wife, I said, that is the most unbelievable event I've ever reported on. You'll never see me there in 40 years' time, but you can't get it out of your system. We talk of Tour fever and they say once contracted, it's incurable. It's because everybody who goes to the Tour de France realises what an incredible sporting achievement it is by the people who take part in the Tour.
Je pense qu'au début, c'était vraiment des gens qui avaient une force, des athlètes avec beaucoup de talent, parce que les étapes qu'ils faisaient de 300-400 km, partir des 3-4 heures du matin, dans des routes qui n'étaient pas asphaltées et tout, réparer leurs bicyclettes le long de la route, lorsqu'ils cassaient, ils eux-mêmes soudaient, puisque c'était interdit d'avoir aucun dépannage de quelqu'un d'autre, c'était par leurs propres moyens.
Tour de France is our Super Bowl, our whatever final of the World Series in baseball, you know. The Tour is not just a race, it's an adventure. You know, it's a big adventure on top of it, you know, it's a big survival trip, you can say, you know.
It's basically 3 weeks of races that are over 100 miles a day, through the Alps, through the Pyrenees, through roads the size of bike paths with 215 guys.
Everybody in the world, whether into cycling or not, knows about the Tour de France, knows it's the biggest bike race in the world. And when you get into cycling, it means that much more. You know what it's about, what it involves, and you go out watching it, you go out watching your heroes, you go out watching these people who are doing incredible things, you know, and it's something to aspire to. It's a massive, massive thing.
The Tour gives you the chance to like step out of the shadow being a domestic into like your 50 minutes of fame. Tour de France is watched by 7-year-old kids up to like a 55, 65-year-old granddad or grandmother. You reach everybody with the Tour. Everybody respects each other because even you don't know the name of the rider next to you, you know he must be a good rider because he's in the Tour de France like yourself. So you respect everybody there, you know. You don't have any stupid idiots there. Everybody is a good, serious, hard-working rider.
It takes you a couple of years to find out how big the Tour de France really is. You can't see it on television how big it really is.
I think it's every rider's dream to come to the Tour and to win a stage, or very few riders can win this race, you know, but it's still an honour to be here and for every rider, you know, and this is my 6th Tour. It's still as hard as the first year I did it, so it's by far the biggest race of the year.
For sure, the best is also arrive in Paris. It's the nicest thing, arrive through the crowd and know now the Tour is finished and you're really happy to go home again.
You look at the mountains, you climb 3 of them in a day, each of them being 20 miles high, and you'll ride for 5 or 6 hours. Then you repeat it next day and the next and the next. For 3 weeks now is the current distance of the Tour de France. The challenges are immense just to complete the route.
Everybody knows firsthand how much suffering it requires to actually just survive the Tour. And we're all sort of like in the same boat. We all know it's risky, and every year you have 50 to 60 riders. They didn't make it to Paris.
For the cyclists, just like 3 weeks of pain, unbelievable concentration. I mean, sometimes you wake up at the Tour, you're just tired, like you just can't imagine. you see people crashing, hurting, bleeding, you know, somehow. A lot of pain, but funny enough, people love it, don't they?
Our number one goal is to win, okay? We want to win stages, we want to win jerseys. The Tour is a real challenge because we've got young up-and-coming stage racers. But when we looked at the course and we looked at the competition, it was pretty clear that Alberto Contador was going to be very tough to beat. So our best chance for success was going to be to focus on Cav, to have some guys who could do well in the GC, but to really put most of our eggs around Cav in that basket.
Team Columbia High Road, HTC, new sponsors for the Tour, are now very much taking a leading part here, and the only thought is to steer Mark Cavendish to victory.
This is the leading group of 4 riders escaped after 25 kilometres of the stage here this afternoon. To hold off a main field, you've got to be able to ride at around about 40 miles an hour.
Never say die. Races have been won by the persistent. Just gone under 5 kilometres to go, and this young man has held them off for a couple of kilometres, but it's all over now. Ignatiev is swept aside by Team Columbia.
The guy in the blue and white is George Hincapie. The guy behind him with the green glasses is Bernard Eisel. I like to try and pull the viewer into a sprint because a sprint is so heated and so exciting. It's dramatic, and I like to try and... I love commentating on sprinting.
Milram have got control on the front end of the main field, but once they get closer to the finish, you may well start to see the acceleration coming from Team Columbia. There's George Hincapie in the yellow and white sunglasses just popping over the top.
The line moving smoothly up on the yellow side. That's Team Columbia. The last man is Mark Cavendish.
If you have to put your brakes on at this point in the race at 3 kilometres to go, you'll go from 5th position to 55th position and lose all chances of winning the bike race. Look how close everybody's now starting to get together inside of 3 kilometres to go. It's still Milram have got the control at the front end of the main field. Once you are done, you just swing off and leave it up to somebody else. Now it's Columbia HCT on the front now, getting control once more. George Hincapie's up into about 4th position. Behind him, I would predict it's Mark Renshaw. Behind Mark Renshaw, it's going to be Mark Cavendish.
Now it's eyes down for a big straight run in here as it all comes together.
Little bouncy and bargy going there, trying to get onto the wheel of George Hincapie.
There was a nasty kick in the middle there that pushed Tom Bonan over the road, but he's corrected it now. They've gone extremely wide there, and I think some have gone off the course. The police had to jump for it. Cavendish sits third wheel. It's Columbia, 1, 2, 3. The last lead out from Mark Renshaw. This is a formality for the Isle of Man, and now Cavendish is launched. The missile fires again. Nobody will get to him. Cavendish is going to get his first win of the Tour de France 2009, and Tyler Farrar an excellent second place.
What a bonehead are you? You offered Danish television to
No,
sit in
you
the
did
car.
yesterday.
No? I said in the neutral zone.
Yeah.
And he told me now, he said
No,
like,
no.
Yeah. He came, Brian, told me, he named you, he said, I talked to Holm, and he said I can go with you in the car to the feet zone. I said, well, what?
No,
said,
no.
what?
I said to him, you can go Nielsrad, and with the Belgian, it got 10 kilometers more. We survived that, and then it's out. No,
That's what I also told him.
He
came back to me and said, like Brian said. I said, no.
He's trying.
On Friday. I said, no.
Just don't.
Jungs, doch mit Nick da hinten. Dann geht Nick wieder so, weißt du, an die Knie.
If you're not a contender to win the Tour and wear the leader's yellow jersey, the green jersey is the next most coveted. It is won by accumulating points for being the first man to cross not only the finishing line, but also the intermediate points along the course every day.
Come on, gentlemen, concentration. Too many riders up there. Come on. It's crossed here. We can make it move.
Good luck.
Huh?
Good luck.
Where's the spirit?
At the finish line, it's the spirit today.
Columbia HTC had a lot of pressure on their shoulders to do a lot of work because of the speed of Mark Cavendish.
We were in a position where, again, nobody wanted to help us. We had to chase down the breakaway, and Cavendish was feeling really good, and we didn't want to let that opportunity of winning another stage so early on in the race slip away from us. So we decided to go to the front,
We noticed that it was very windy. It was a big headwind at the time. We had said that if we noticed a wind change that we were going to try to split up the peloton. We never imagined doing that much damage.
I remember knowing that something was going to happen just because of the way the road was changing and zigzagging. And I know that area of France extremely well and know that a slight change of direction can split the field.
We had driven the course that morning right before the stage actually, and we had watched the wind and saw this opportunity. One of the things that can really change the race right now is wind conditions, particularly crosswinds on these narrow roads. So we're just leaving Arles right now, and it looks like this is going to be an important section of the road here where should be a strong crosswind coming from the right. So this is an important tactical consideration.
In 8 kilometers you go 90 degrees to the left, 8 kilometers 90 degrees left. We got a bit of chance for crosswind, okay?
Riders gotta know when you say something, you mean it. No discussions. If we go flat out, they're gonna do it. They really have to ride till it drop dead.
It was windy, everyone knows you've got to stay at the front. At one particular point though, about 36k to go, George said to me, oh come on, we'll drop back in the peloton, you know, it's a little bit windy here. Just as we're dropping back, boom, we see a 90-degree right corner and we're riding into a headwind. So obviously means something. If we're going to turn 90 degrees, we're going to have a crosswind straight away. Shit. Straight away the wind's hitting our side. And I know everybody's in the team's thinking we could actually split it here, but it takes someone with balls to actually call the decision, because if you call a decision and we mess it up, then the blame's on you, you know. I know all of us were thinking it, and it took Michael Rogers saying on the radio, okay you guys, go now.
Good, and come on guys, everybody to the front.
We're looking at the back of the peloton, which is in tatters at the front. Look at that gap. They have really, they spotted it into the crosswind. Cancellara made the split in the yellow jersey. Lance Armstrong has made it. Alberto Contador did not. And you can see the panic which is on now by the peloton. And if this road keeps doing S's, then it's crosshead, crosshead, crosshead. And it's going to cause gaps. Well, because of the split, Paul, there are the 4 riders underneath the American flag who, I'm afraid, have been shot down in flames by a peloton which is racing for real time now.
When it happened, it was like, oh, yeah, that's great. But then we also found out, no, we have to keep going.
We're having the team time trial today, and it's Team Columbia, HTC, who caused this split, and they are driving.
And the big advantage here is that there are 9 riders, Phil, from Team Columbia High Road HTC are in this group. And that means that they won't hold anything back. They can completely and utterly sacrifice themselves. It is very, very rare to see something like this when the whole of one team manages to get themselves into a front split. They're now starting to get themselves organised. I'll tell you one thing, there's a lot of people in that back group must be panicking.
There's Contador, number 21, in the centre of our picture. He's going to be feeling a little bit anxious at the moment.
At the moment, I know that we split the peloton, but I didn't know if we were with 80 guys or 100 because I didn't look behind.
It looks like we're in 1 kilometre to go now. Skilled Shimano won't go down without a fight as well. Cavendish has moved himself right up now. He's not got a lot of riders here, and there's an attack on right on the far side of the road. This is going to be a tough one. Mark Renshaw, you've got to do something special here. Where are you, Mark? I'm right behind you. Mark has got to do something very special here and stay there as long as possible, because Cholig is getting up on his back wheel as well here, and Tor Hushoff is locked in onto the back of the missile. I think that Cavendish knows it. Now he's got to go up the left-hand side. Tor Hushoff, can he use his massive strength to challenge Cavendish? It's going to be close, but I think Caven's done it. Yes, he's done it on the telephone. Mark Cavendish is unbelievable.
Cavendish! Yeah! Yeah! Oh! Not a good job, gentlemen. Congratulations.
They was riding like small motorbikes, you know, small Kawasaki's, 1100 cc, you know, so you couldn't imagine. I mean, one thing we got the crosswind, but when they were speeding up, going full speed ahead, was amazing, you know. I believe, like, I looked at Aldag, I saw he was crying a little bit when Marky won. Don't tell anybody.
You know, it feels like a junior race sometimes. You know, nobody wants to ride, commit themselves, and professional bunch. It's supposed to be a sprint day. We should ride for a sprint, but everybody's nervous about the team time trial tomorrow. So we were the only team that was willing to take it on, and what a way to stick it to everyone else. I think, you know, we hit it in the crosswinds, we split it, and yeah, we came in clear.
Sprinters have to be an extroverting character because of the explosive nature of the side of the sport that they practice. They have to appear brash, they have to appear outgoing, but they have to be confident. They're like boxers. You know, you don't get into the ring and say, yeah, well, I'm going to do my best today, I'll see what you've got to get in there and say, I'm going to win. I want to kill this guy. I want to knock him to the ground. And that's what a sprinter has to do. A sprinter has to have that character. Otherwise, he's going to finish second. He's going to finish third. And sometimes that comes out as being cocky and cheeky and brash, but actually deep down, Mark Cavendish he's a pretty cool character.
If you're going to be a great sprinter, you've got to be totally fearless, because it is highly dangerous to race in a pack of 100+ riders, shoulder to shoulder, wheel to wheel, kneecap to kneecap, over the last 150 metres when you know you've got to get through an impossible gap, with the crowds leaning over the barriers. They've got to be fearless people. But their character is also one of aggression, because that's the way they are. They unleash it on the bike, and very often they unleash it with their tongue as well.
You can see them overreacting, even if they win a stage. So you expect they have to be happy, but there's so much. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's so much adrenaline inside of them. So it just have to come out, and sometimes it comes out in a strange way. So
yeah, I think there's a lot more with Mark Cavendish than meets the public eye. I mean, this is a passionate young man. I mean, he's just now turned 24. He is learning and growing every day, both obviously on the bike, but also socially.
For me, I can't even think myself into a position like he is in. I mean, think about his age. Think, you know, how quick all that came. You know, for sure he came from the track in first year Tour de France. Well, I think he crashed like 5 times in 4 stages and was really depressed, and then, you know, coming back and making so quick moves, being so good on so short time. That's really impressive that he's still grounded. People who support him always have very big credit. But you should not really play around with him. He will also not forget that, I think.
Over the years, the Tour has incorporated different elements of cycling into its rigours. 2009 saw the return of the team time trial, an event where all 9 riders of each team raced together against the clock. While the Tour de France is won by the lowest accumulated individual time after 21 days of racing, the team time trial counts towards that time. Only after the 5th man in each team crosses the line will the clock be stopped.
I was scared already before, not really big time scared, but I had a really big respect from the team time trial, because I was sure, okay, I'm not the best time trial, and we had a lot of good time trials there. We had 3-time world champion with Mick Rogers, world champion with Bert Grabsch, George Hinckley. So Mark is a really good team time trial. So I was like, okay, that's going to be the toughest day for you, and it was.
Well, they will be hyper motivated. They've got the world time trial champion over on the left-hand side. That's Bert Grabsch. They've got the Australian time trial champion on the left-hand side. That is Mick Rogers. And they've got the experience in 3rd position there of big George Hinckley.
Comes to left, right, but it's full gas. It's full gas, it's no problem. Come on, guys. Left, right.
The course of Montpellier was diabolical, with its narrow twisting roads, fractured pavement and exposure to the wind. It would tax the total ability of every rider.
Bernie's dead.
Ho, 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 ho. Go, 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 go. Yeah, but Rancher is also at the limit.
I didn't feel really good when I got dropped. I was like, oh, that's too early.
Saxo Bank, with Fabian Cancellara still in the yellow jersey, was one of the favourites to win. However, all the world was anxious to see seven-time Tour winner and living legend Lance Armstrong return to the discipline he has always dominated.
Heads up, right turn, be careful. This is the most critical part of the course. Left turn, narrow bridge, super narrow, heads up. Heads up, left turn, followed by a right turn.
28 pour Cofidis le crédit en ligne, 12e place du classement.
There's a hole in the road.
À 1 minute 05, 5 minutes.
Fabian Cancellara, I think today is riding like 10 men. Cavendish looking over his shoulder there at George Hincapie. They've already got an awful amount of success out of the Tour de France. They are down to 6 men in Team Astana.
Even Armstrong at last appears human. He's gritting his teeth. They've got to do it. They need to kick very, very hard here. And they've done it by a matter of, oh my goodness me. At the end of the day, it was indeed Team Astana who won. But a mere 0.02 of a second kept Lance from the maillot jaune.
It's one of those events where you always feel like you're the weakest guy. And so I finished the stage and I thought, shit, I was a disappointment. But then you talk to the other guys, they say, oh, you were great. So it's hard to know. I mean, I tried to do my best, and you know, for me, Popo and Claudie were the strongest. It's just a damn hard event. I mean, it's one of the hardest things we do in the Tour.
Well, I finally just have a chance to come see the Tour. Friends with Lance, friends with George. Just thought I'd drop those names. I know them on a first name basis. Yeah, throw a little. That's my biking blue steel. Yeah, blue carbon. This is blue carbon. Very similar to blue steel, but lighter, much lighter.
Je suis Pierre Cogan, le plus vieux coureur qui a terminé le Tour de France. Alors c'est comme ça que ça a débuté. Moi je travaillais puis je courais. Pas de repos. J'avais 17 ans, 18 ans. Ben, là je travaillais mais je courais le dimanche, tous les dimanches. Parce que j'ai gagné plusieurs courses, une centaine. Facile, plus que ça, mais pas marqué. Ouais. Qui font du vélo, qui marchent en vélo, eh ben, ils sont attirés par le Tour de France. Tous les coureurs sont attirés par le Tour de France. La photo, ça c'est la photo, le départ du premier Tour de France que j'ai fait. Pour un homme, je veux dire, le vélo, le Tour de France et tout, quoi. C'est beaucoup, quoi. Moi, mon Tour de France, le premier, c'est 35 kilos dans 47. Ça fait des années. Alors, puis alors, prison et tout ça, j'étais plus l'homme. On a été capturés dans le bois d'Argonne. Tout le régiment a été capturé par les Allemands. Je suis échappé, c'est pas une fois, je me suis échappé 3 fois. Ouais, enfin. Je regrette, bien sûr que je regrette tout ça, ça c'est sûr, mais j'y peux rien. Puis je suis encore vivant. Et j'ai de la chance, parce que j'y suis passé plusieurs fois à côté. Là. Il y a longtemps que j'aurais dû être mort. J'ai eu de la chance. J'ai quitté le Tour de France en 1936 pour le refaire 10 ans après. J'ai fait 7e du Tour en 1950. Moi j'ai arrêté en 51. J'avais 36 ans J'avais 36 ans, ouais. Si j'ai 97 ans, c'est parce que je suis encore là. Hein. J'espère y aller jusqu'à 100.
Mais je pense que, vous savez, dans le Tour de France, il y a bien sûr beaucoup de différentes possibilités. Bon, pour gagner le Tour de France, il faut être un coureur complet. Je pense qu'il faut être un grand rouleur, il faut pouvoir gravir la montagne, un grimpeur. Et bon, et puis il y a bien sûr les sprinters, eux qui disputent le maillot vert. Je pense bien sûr que sur la fin du Tour de France, tous les coureurs ont couru à peu près 3000 ou 4000 km et ils sont tous fatigués. Donc c'est pas qu'il y a des changements qui s'opèrent dans une équipe où il y a des remplaçants ou quoi. Donc, et puis lorsque vous avez un leader qui peut gagner le Tour ou qui peut gagner l'étape, comme je pense que les équipiers sont toujours meilleurs lorsqu'il y a un bon leader. Alors je pense que par exemple les équipiers de Cavendish, même s'ils étaient fatigués, ils savaient que s'ils emmenaient Cavendish près de la ligne d'arrivée, que Cavendish allait gagner et que pour eux c'était une récompense des efforts qu'ils avaient fournis pendant la journée, les souffrances qu'ils ont dû endurer pendant 3 semaines, mais je pense qu'ils en sont récompensés également.
Don't come too close to me, please. If you leave your hand on your there, it's fine, but don't put it on my shoulder. I hope so.
Start pretty relaxed, you know, eating sandwich, have a drink in the car, bit of fun. But it's getting more and more exciting, and then we're getting into the tactic. And I think we're gonna have to admit sometimes we have some small discussion about the about the right things to do.
George in the peloton that doesn't speed up anymore, just go steady.
No, steady. They have to close the gap or not? I mean, what?
George?
Yeah.
I know they're going steady here, I say.
Yeah, but we said just go steady.
No, I say they're going steady.
Yeah.
You're talking about George. George, did the other guy catch you?
You cannot follow a manual. You don't know before after the race should we done A or B or maybe even C. So sometimes you really get into some heavy discussion about the tactic.
We're coming with the new bike, we're coming.
What, Valerio? It's difficult. You don't see really the race, you don't see really where they're at. You have a little television that you can watch, and you know you have some basic time splits, but it's not really that we can say like, well, we got everything under control. It's a lot about what do you think?
Fuck, look at that beat.
When you're forming a top team in the world, you can liken it to Formula One Grand Prix motor racing. There's the driver, there's the car, and there's the men that make the driver go fast, and there's the men that make the car go fast. Exactly the same applies in the cycling. You develop a team of maybe 26, 28 riders in the stable, of which only 9 make the Tour de France. And they fight for selection. Within their own team, they have to show they've got the fitness and the form and the willpower to ride the Tour de France. They're backed up by the overall managing director of the team. The guy maybe owns the team, but he's the big boss. He'll go to the Tour. He'll take along his helpers, his sporting directors. It's their job to plot the day's tactics, to talk to the riders, to say, look, you didn't ride well yesterday, now you've got to ride further up the bunch. That'll all come out in the team tactical talk at the start of the day or over the dinner table the previous night. Because where the riders eat in the hotels have separate rooms. They go in as teams. The team blending is very important. The chef, they bring the chef. The chef just walks in, takes over the hotel kitchen, sends the chef home, makes all the food, brings it out, knows exactly what each rider wants, what his fancies are, what his allergies are. So he's a very important member of the team, just as important as the guy riding the bike. Then you've got the soigneur, the helper, the man who is going to take the rider who may just have crashed, his legs covered in blood. Riders shave legs, yes, but it's a little bit of vanity, but basically it's so they can be massaged all the time or be bandaged after accident. You go straight to the massage room first, you get priority. Each rider will be given up to an hour on the table. That guy walks out there feeling, oh boy, I feel just like a stage of the Tour de France again tomorrow.
Mick is back, that's good, huh?
Yeah.
Mick's back from the dead.
Definitely.
He went back to get bottles. I'm like,
yeah,
oh my god.
Like, that was a good
How
sign.
the fuck?
Oh man, I was either then or I'll never get water again, eh?
Yeah, but Mick, I mean, come on, you came up with fucking 6 bottles. I'm
6.
Like, how
Give me
the
more,
fuck?
give me more.
6. You gave me 2. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my god.
10 I had, man.
I
I'd
couldn't
like-
even say thank you at that point.
I thought, like, how
I
many
had
guys?
like fucking 10 kilos on me, man.
I thought he might sell it or something there
Oh
because
shit, that was impressive.
I was doing like 800 watts to get back.
I can imagine if people see us here sitting down in the feed zone and they think, oh, they have a good life, huh? They're sitting in the sun and drive a nice car and waiting for the riders and that's it. But our day starts around 7 in the morning and it don't end. So like in the Tour de France yesterday, we were at the dinner table at 10:30. You start in the morning to prepare bottles, making the food for the feed zone. You give massage in the evening. You fill up the cars, wash the cars. You do almost everything. Huh? The whole day you're running. Your social life is pretty much down the drain, eh? You know, with friends and with family birthdays or family parties, or I was not with my family on vacation for the last 8 years. The upside of this job, every day is different. It's exciting every day. All the big success you have in the team, you're also a part of that. Huh? That's a good feeling.
The men I always feel have got the worst job of the lot, although nobody would ever trade it, is the mechanic. The mechanics have to select the gears, change all those sprockets at the back on the cluster for the road the next day. Then the rider will come and say, look, this hill isn't that steep, I don't need that, change it back to this. And so he's doing the bikes and he's swinging it all again. Then the guys will have their own little reasons where they want things in certain places on the bikes because they're superstitious, so they've got to fix that for them. The worst day for a mechanic is when it rains all day. The whole bike stripped to the bones, rebuilt, new tyres put on, new handlebar tape, make the bike look what they are, professional cyclists, throw the dirty tape away, etc.
I think it runs in the family. I mean, my dad is a car mechanic, and he's pretty good at fixing cars, so I think it's in the blood, fixing things. That's my passion, bikes. There was a crash and he stopped, and then somebody hit him from behind and totally smacked his wheel. Cab is okay, nothing happened, but the wheel is not so good anymore.
The mechanics are special, they never go to bed. They just work. They never see them at the dinner table. I don't know where the food goes, they've passed out of them out the window. Those guys are special, and they're the hardest workers, because they also then have to work on the race with the wheels, ready to change when riders fall off. First out the car, wheels in hand, not knowing what the problem is, they may have 2 wheels in hand. Find the rider, fix him, get him back into the race. If he's covered in blood, doesn't matter. Once he's in the race, we'll send the doctor up and he can sort him out, but he's got to be in that race.
Just relax a little bit. Feel the good energy.
Watching you. Watching 8 guys in Lycra.
Okay, gentlemen. So today we're gonna drive the Panzerwagen in the garage, maybe a little bit. Tony and is for Luftwaffe and his troops. Okay. It's gonna be without the radios today. Bernie, Captain America, you make the decisions. Okay. Don't start fighting like Rolf and me normally do in the car. Just discuss it, make the decisions. As normal, we try to save Prince Harry for CAF also for the final. And the lead out gonna be like normal, okay? Now, be sure like every day when guys start to move up, like the yellow train is coming, trust me, everybody shit their pants, all the small teams, Saxo Bank, whoa, they move. Trust me, when they see you guys moving up, nobody try. So stay together. Today you don't have the radios, you really have to fight to stay together. I couldn't really figure out why suddenly we should race without the radios. I heard somebody said cycling would be more exciting. I don't know, was it more exciting in the 80s? I really don't think so. No. When I was riding, I think it was about the same. I think it came up from some French team who didn't win a lot, so they blamed it on the radios.
Eisel is digging deep once again. This might be a different result here. Milram have got this organised. This could make a very different approach to the line, and I would think that it might be advantage Cholik at the moment, and the young man on Columbia in the white jersey, Tony Martin, is beginning to try and break it in. There's a kilometre to go. Well, I think Milram have got to the front a little bit too far out, but they've got to keep the pressure on. You're committed at this point now. This is the long climb up. Hincapie will wait till the very last moment. Then in fourth position of that line of riders from Columbia HTC is Mark Cavendish, queuing up now. He's moved up nicely there to the wheel of Cavendish as the green jersey of Thor Hushoff. Over to the left is the Garmin slipstream acceleration. They're looking after Tyler Farrar. Well, here is the huge lead out by George Hincapie, but you can see Ferrari's in there on the left. Again, Hushoff is onto the wheel of Mark Cavendish now. This is going to make all of the difference. The final lead out will come by Renshaw, but as on the right now, and Hushoff believes he's got the strength on the hill. Cavendish is going to have to fight out. Watch Farrar on the right. The three top sprinters have gone shoulder to shoulder. Tyler Farrar is going after Cavendish, but this little man with the big heart and the big legs has just made it 4 in a row. He equals the British record. He has got 8 stage wins in 2 years in the Tour de France. And again, that was not easy, Paul. The team did a fantastic job.
In these days, everybody trains hard, everybody trains good, everybody got good tactics, everybody got next to perfect bikes. So the difference sometimes is only made up here.
You go out riding your bike for 7 hours, 7 hours, 7 hours. It's raining, it might snow. And then there's this one day of racing that you really did all these things for. And this is why you realize, like, I invested so much time and, you know, I put so much effort into that. And now they really hurt me here. But it's only 20 more kilometers to go to the finish. And I have to hang on now. I really have to do my best now. I think suffering in cycling is basically the key to success.
This is Jens Voigt now. Voigt now has been picked up by Andy Schleck's group, and he's going to try and bury himself.
So I'm not a world-class sprinter, I'm not a world-class climber, I'm not a world-class time trialer. All I have is my fighting spirit and my big engine. So if I go out, I know I might have a 10% chance of winning or coming through, and a 90% chance of getting caught. But now, to me, it's just as simple as anything. If I don't go out, I have 0 chances. So I rather take the 10% chance than 0% chance. Isn't that logic? But fortunately for me, not everybody thinks like that. That's why I'm still, you know, in the business, and even in the age of, like, you know, almost 38, I'm still there and I can still do some sort of performance, you know.
If you on one day get into a winning move that succeeds and he wins the stage, he's a superhero now. He's known all over France. He's on all the papers in France. He's now a very special character. And he wakes up next morning and thinks, I've just won a stage of the Tour de France. That's his life complete. He never gets the sack from a team now. He's fixed for the rest of his life. He's a stage winner of the Tour de France. Everywhere he walks, he'll be announced as a stage winner of the Tour de France. It's incredibly special. Stage 13 was a windy, cold and brutal day for the bike race. So when young Heinrich Hausler broke away, he had a very slim chance at winning. However, the pack let down the guard, and sometimes the will of a man is underestimated. Frustrated riders tried to bridge the gap up to the breakaway, but the damage had been done. Heinrich was simply out of reach. He'd made the early breakaway, scrambled over 3 mountains through 200 kilometres of horribly cold rain, and proved on this day he was the most motivated cyclist in the Tour de France. He finished almost 7 minutes in front of the peloton. Every rider who enters the Tour de France will face a stage that will test the will. When sickness grows worse, or the legs scream back in defiance, or worst of all, when the mind has had enough. To be the man leading the hardest race in the world, to wear the maillot jaune, really is a very special thing. However, reaching for the yellow jersey can be a siren song, and the Tour, by design, is very punishing. In 2006, George Hincapie grasped the maillot jaune for a day, placing him in an elite group of only 5 Americans to have done this. Even Big George has the ability to win a race as he did with style on stage 15 of the 2005 Tour. He will always be known for being Lance Armstrong's right-hand man. George, though, defines the title Super Domestique as he has quietly earned the respect of the peloton and a place beside the greatest legends of the sport.
Starting off is definitely tough. I remember when I started as a young American kid, first couple of years I got no respect in the peloton from the older, more established pros. You know, that's something that I got gradually as the years went on. I show respect to all riders. It doesn't matter if they're young or if they're old or if they're weak or strong. To me, they're the same. You know, I think they deserve, this sport is so hard that everybody deserves the same respect. And I think I've helped, in a small way, grow the popularity of the sport here in the United States and have people be more aware of the Tour de France, what it is, and it seems like in America it's gotten a lot more popular.
Today, gonna make the 2 last days look like holidays.
Holiday, when you go to holiday to Beirut or fucking
Stalingrad. So listen to today, from the start, Bernie and Captain America, you talk together. Okay, gentlemen?
Good luck.
Good luck.
What are we doing again?
Vive la France. Vive la France.
In stage 14 this year's Tour de France has got to be the single day where so much went wrong on every single aspect. It's an incredibly bad day on every front.
Everybody knew that the chances of the breakaway succeeding were higher because AG2R had been controlling now for a week. They were getting tired, so the chances of a breakaway making the finish line was going to be greater.
George Hincapie, who's been a professional since 1994, is in this breakaway, and he's one of the older campaigners, 36 years of age. He started the day 5 minutes and 25 seconds behind in the overall classification. Now, if he gets to the finish line 5 minutes and 25 seconds ahead of the main field, he will be the new leader in the race. It's really going to be touch and go. I have to say, you shouldn't take sides when you're commentating, but my fingers are crossed for George Hincapie this afternoon.
People just think about themselves when they go like on their bike to like do some grocery shopping. I do about 5 miles. So, you know, when they see you coming, they think, he's far away. I can still cross the road, you know, when we come with the whole bunch.
Some situations are quite dangerous because not everybody knows how fast we go through or how dangerous it really is.
And all of a sudden there's people waving like that, and we go by as a peloton, and kind of out the corner of my eye I see like a mass of rags and flesh, and I didn't know what it was, and all of a sudden it clicked, you know, and a poor woman being hit by a police motorbike. You know, she'd been crossing the road, and a police motorbike that, you know, they look after the race and make sure the race runs securely, it hit her, and she died instantly, you know, and that was a horrific thing for every rider in that peloton who saw it. You know, it was something that made you feel, you know, really, really, really bad, and that put a darker on everything, you know, everything for the day. It was it was a long day thinking of that, you know, the poor woman, you know, her family, the people, you know, she came out to watch a race, and it ends in tragedy, you know.
It was a good decision for George Hincapie to go into a breakaway. We were just commentating on it, but dismissing it in our minds as, here we go again, it'll be caught before the finish. Then we suddenly realised, I'm not so sure it will be caught, this breakaway, it's going places. Then all of a sudden we started calculating how much time George needed to gain. He was the best placed in the breakaway overall to become the next yellow jersey. And he got the time.
And I had in the back of my head, Tried to stay close to the leaders throughout the first 10 days of the race because I knew that I could possibly get in one of those breakaways, and had I been 4 or 5 minutes behind that, I had a real good shot of getting the yellow jersey.
AG2R, Phil, do not have the firepower. They're swinging off the group here and leaving the pacemaking up to Team Astana. Astana have absolutely no reason at all to pull back George Hincapie.
And then you've got a situation that Astana decided that, yeah, it'd be great if George gets the yellow jersey. It's good for him, it's good for us, he's an American, and he ain't going to win the Tour. So we can afford for him to come out of the day with a lead of 2 minutes. Now, I commented at the time they chased it down. Lance has criticised me for that. I believe that they made a mistake. They did allow the break to go further ahead, and then they controlled the head of the race with all the pace. And then the gap was holding. And unfortunately, they held it too close because they didn't rely on a double cross.
The thing that I think that really put the nail into the coffin of George getting the yellow jersey on that occasion was the way that Team Garmin Slipstream rode. And I, as a professional bike rider, can't understand why they rode like that. That is the third group on the road, led by Hincapie. Hincapie's not worried about second or third on a stage like this afternoon. He's more concerned about the seconds that might bring him the yellow jersey for the second time in his career.
Here's the chase now, and not sure why that rider from Slipstream is on the front there doing some tempo, helping the AG2R team. They want to go as slowly as they can do. They're trying to get a setup perhaps for some points there. They know that Mascant's been dropped, so for the Garmin squad, they're trying to chase a little bit, but I think I would let AG2R do all the work if I was in the peloton.
George doesn't make enemies, and he had friends on Garmin as well, but they were riding to instructions. Team management at some level had issued the instructions to chase for no gain, and they were riding like men possessed. They had their head down, they were hitting speeds of 50 kilometers an hour. The clock was tumbling down as they approached the finish. So there's no question they were out to destroy the time gap because they knew they couldn't catch the leaders anymore. It was impossible.
They could say, yeah, this is sport, but I don't see it as sport, Sport doesn't work like that. Sport is you give 100%, that person gives 100%, and the best man wins. That's sport.
Sergei Ivanov, we expected him to make his move. He did exactly that. He wins the stage for Russia and for Katusha, and he's stolen the show. A long breakaway today. That's the stage winner. But who is the leader tonight? They're coming very close on him. Remember that the clock will start for yellow and George.
We have to start the clock now. We have to wait for 5 minutes and 25 seconds from when Nicholas Roach crossed the line to see whether or not the main field are going to come in with the yellow jersey. It is going to be very close for George Hincapie here this afternoon.
Michael Rogers is trying to deliver Tony Martin, followed by Mark Renshaw, followed by the missile himself, and locked into the back of the missile is the green jersey of Torhosov. They're going to start the sprint. Tony Martin is trying to delay it as much as possible, and right on the inside is the green jersey of Hushov, and that should be close enough to keep it tonight. Now he's waiting for him to go.
My calculation, Phil, is in fact George Hincapie is going to miss out on the yellow jersey by probably 3 seconds as we look down onto the Citadel there. And the city.
When George crossed the finishing line after that, I've never seen him so upset. And he felt his old friend, Armstrong, had run him down. But George was a broken man, he was bitter. I think the feud went on for a few months after the Tour. There was no words passed. Lance was desperately trying to coax him back to be a friend. But George didn't know. He couldn't have known what was happening behind. And his real enemy was Garmin. They had chased him down, they had destroyed him. They were the perpetrators for whatever reason they had.
No, it's funny to hear the different reactions that people have on that day. That some people say it's just bike racing, but that, I've raced more Tour de France's than anybody. For sure, anybody of those people that are saying that's just bike racing, and it wasn't bike racing. That was just, that was just out of pure spite. But at the end of the day, I lost the jersey by 5 seconds, and it was probably, as far as results go, one of the biggest disappointments in my career.
I never felt for anyone like I felt for George that day, To have something taken away from him on political reasons instead of sporting reasons, it was, it was pretty dark, and his family was there, his wife was there with his 2 kids, but you could see the disappointment in him, So we get back to the hotel. I'm in massage, and And Rolf comes in, he says, Cav, they've took the stage away from you. I said, what? And then it came on the television, looked at it, the infamous video of the barriers coming out, Tor coming on the wrong side. Every sprinter knows you don't come on the inside of a sprint. It's an old thing. If you're behind, you don't come on the inside. It's a rule, then you're the one in the wrong because you're creating the dangerous move.
I actually was asked to study the photo finish afterwards and the replays of the run in towards the finish line, and I studied them several times for British television. I disagree with the fact that Mark Cavendish was relegated on that occasion. It was his first offence. I think a severe warning, maybe monetary or a fine of a certain number of points, 5 points or 10 points, would have been appropriate.
Sadly, the rules are simple. If the referee agrees, you're relegated. You're not disqualified from the Tour de France, but you're relegated from the front where you finished to the very back. Now, that could be one place if there's only two of you. But in Cavendish's place, over 150 riders in the group. So he finishes, I think, 154th or something like that at the back of the group. No points for the green jersey. Hushoff gets his points. As it turned out, with hindsight, in Paris, those points would have given him the green jersey.
So Mark was kind of the unintended victim of our chance to grab the yellow jersey, and we wound up losing both. If you're going to be a cyclist, you better be used to going for it when you get the chance and knowing that it may not work.
The Tour will do all it can to break even the most determined rider. If not in the heat, then in the wind. If not in the rain, then in the mountains. The Pyrenees Mountains were first included in the 1910 Tour de France. As the first rider passed over the top of the Col d'Aubisque, he shouted at the race organisers, "You are assassins! Yes, assassins!"
Ben, je pense que la montagne est bien sûr terrible. Je pense qu'il y a des changements de situation qui sont impressionnants dans l'histoire du Tour de France. Des coureurs qui vraiment étaient en tête puis qui ont eu une défaillance énorme dans la montagne. Je pense que la montagne est certainement la partie la plus difficile dans le Tour de France.
Sometimes I really wish I still was a professional cyclist, but not today.
goes. This is what we've expected. It had to come. He's seen his teammates do it. Now the pace is going to lift. Andy Schleck is on the offensive. Nibali is on behind him. Now what's the answer? They've split the peloton.
They've split the peloton. Frank Schleck is there in third position. Alberto Contador is there, and so too is Andreas Klöden.
Wiggins has gone with them.
Lance Armstrong is missing.
Now Andy Schleck is setting this relentless tempo. Frank is with him as well. Contador's looking around at the countryside. He's in no trouble at all. Now he's waited until he saw the chance, and Lance Armstrong is countering the move of his team. Kim Kirken, the other Luxembourger in the race, is getting the free passage here as well, although his face is a picture of pain.
It's fucking amazing, Kim. Fucking amazing. You coming back. Come on, good job, buddy.
2 minutes and 8 seconds now.
This is Lance Armstrong. He's dislodged the climber from Colombia, Uran, and he's dislodged Christian van der Velde. He's gone straight by Frank Schleck. Goodbye, Frank. You're not having this back wheel. Armstrong is doing a phenomenal ride here this afternoon. He's going to go straight by Jens Voigt, and very shortly he'll be back onto the group of Bradley Wiggins. Wiggins now has decided to set the tempo at the front end of this field, but Armstrong is almost back. He's grappling the last few metres to get himself into this leading elite group of professional bike riders at the Tour de France 2009.
Contador looked over his shoulder, and Lance has arrived, and the big stare there from Andy Schleck. He must be surprised to see Armstrong here. For the sprinters, the mountains are horrible. At the back of the race, Australian Mark Renshaw, the faithful lead-out man for Mark Cavendish, was barely hanging on.
For myself, the hardest part would have to be getting through the mountains. Basically, I have to give 110% just to finish those stages. They're not naturally my terrain, so it makes it all the more harder.
We had a really difficult start, straight uphill from the word go, and I remember I was just on the back foot the whole day, chasing. All I wanted to do was get to the top of this climb. I had Valerio in the car behind me, pushing me.
Bernie, wait. Allez Marc, okay.
When you are suffering on your bike in a climb and you see that it's still 20 k's to go at the top, it's mentally hard, so you have to be strong in your head and keep going. Because if you get pain, everybody gets pain.
Yeah, it's always the hardest part of the race, the crucial part of every race. Yeah, you're just like walking through like a valley of pain there every day and day again, you know.
For me, the hardest part, sure, is the mountain. I hate the mountain.
You guys are just super dynamo. You're loaded with talent. Loaded. Come on, Tony Martin. Come on, Hincapie. Ride, alley.
Climber can give 100%, they train 100% mentally and physically, but they can get a result at the end of it, which kind of changes your perception of it. But if you're doing the same just to survive.
Can you guys stop talking? Kind of respect. People are suffering here.
Like a cyclist, it's like normal work. Some mornings you just wake up, you just know that's going to be a bad day. Like in an office, some days if you're a salesman, you're not going to sell shit. You just got the feeling, it's not my day, I put on the wrong shirt, my hair's wrong, it's going to be a long day at the office. Same as a cyclist, you start, your legs, oi oi oi.
The photographers and television cameramen on motorcycles are the bravest men in the world as far as I'm concerned, and it's the one job, I don't care how much money you pay me, I would not do it. When you see these guys caping up, the rain is torrential and they're going to go up the mountain and descend with the riders, Watson has to get in there with a still camera and get the shots that matter as they matter. The moment of the attack, for example, that decides the tour. What would he think if he missed it? But to be there at that moment, because you don't know which moment, when.
I look for emotion more than anything else, because emotion covers just about everything. It covers sadness, happiness, tragedy. It covers somebody winning a stage of the Tour de France. That's emotional. Someone falling off and crashing out is emotional. On top of that, I look for the beauty of the sport, which also covers just about everything. Beauty is scenery in the Alps and the Pyrenees, Beauty is also a cyclist in full flight, say like Contador. A very beautiful guy to watch on a bicycle.
It is the only sport in the world where you're working inside the sport. So you're on a motorbike, you're in between the bikes, you are very close to the riders, very close contact to all the people who are working in cycling. It's basically, I think it's the only sport where you are really participating in the sport. I guess it's the same like a cyclist. You don't leave, you're doing your job and you're not really thinking about the dangers that are around you. Just going, you're thinking in front, ahead of next day, next event. Of course you have to react very quickly, because when a rider falls down, for example, from his bike, you don't have 2 minutes to stand there and looking and are you okay, everything. No, that's a reaction you shoot and you think afterwards. It's now my 17th tour. Yeah, I started young when I was 20, but no problem. I can do 70 more even.
I have seen grown journalists in tears because they're frightened to death going down the mountains in a car with all the wheels screeching and the brakes smelling. I used to go to bed at night, look at the mountains we crossed, look at the mountains we still had to cross, and just put a tick and say, I'm still alive.
Well, we're going to be treated to a daredevil descent on the other side of this mountain. Jens Voigt, I wonder sometimes where he gets it from, because he was in the breakaway, he got dropped by this group and he's fought his way back up because he knows his teammates need him. He knows he needs to keep setting the pace for as long as possible.
And every now and then it crosses your mind that all your protection is like a tiny little helmet, and all your connection to the ground is like 2 square centimeters of rubber touching the ground and you sitting on that. I just don't want to die there, you know. I just go, hey man, I don't need to take any crazy risk.
And it is a very savage and technical descent on the running down towards the line here in Bourg of Saint-Maurice, and that's where we have to get to after a 19-mile, 31-kilometer descent.
Yeah, so I was apparently 3 minutes unconscious, like I didn't answer to them, but I lost about 20 to 30 minutes of my memory. To be honest, I don't want it back, these memories. They're only going to be full of pain and I don't need it. But nobody ever said it's going to be easy to be a cyclist, you know?
One moment I stopped with clear.
What did you say, Valerio?
With a crash behind from clear.
George crashed in the front.
Think this is normal?
No.
This here?
No.
Checking.
Ask the ambulance there.
Try going on.
On my shoulder.
I know, buddy.
What should I do?
Wait for the doctor, let him have a look. And if you really fucked, you just stop, no problem, okay?
My back the other day was so sore, I was having spasms in my back the whole day and I could hardly pedal, and yeah, I felt like stopping. If it hadn't been the tour, it would have been in the other race, I probably would have stopped. If you go to the tour, you have to get to the finish unless you crash so bad that, you can't continue or you break a bone or something.
I ended up breaking my collarbone. I didn't know about it. Well, I didn't want to know about it until the end, but I knew that there was something majorly wrong with my shoulder.
Put one of those non-sticky ones on there.
Yeah.
Probably the best.
Sorry, yeah.
What is this? What? I don't know, I never shaved that far out.
I told the team doctor that I didn't want to get an x-ray and got taped up and kind of dealt with the pain for the next 4 days, and it was very important for me to make it to the finish.
If you're going to finish the Tour de France, you've got to get up and continue to ride, even if you've got no seat left in your shorts. They've got to go on and finish. That's the Tour. That's what's made it what it is. It isn't an easy event. It is pain from the word go. And just when you think that you're reaching the limit of your pain, you've got to go through that barrier and persuade yourself that you can go just one more pain notch higher.
Better wake up before we start this thing.
We didn't have a lot of good luck the last few days. I mean, with the green jersey, with George getting chased down. But I'm telling you that them cyclists, that they're really not made of chocolate. I mean, they are tough bastards, and they're gonna come back, trust me. Yeah.
The Tour is never finished in Aubenas, and a nasty surprise waited for the men looking to win that day. Before the finish line was a Category 2 climb 15 kilometres long. As we approached the finish, I just went, boy, there's no way Mark Cavendish can win this stage, because it was quite a slog up to the line.
So I sat the guys down in the bus on that morning. I said, please guys, I can do this, but I need every single one of you. So it wasn't a case of just getting over as best I could. I had to look like I wasn't trying, you know? Because if I look like trying, they're going to turn it on more, and they were going full gas.
Ask Kev how he's feeling, yeah?
Kev?
Yeah.
Doesn't look so healthy, but he's fighting.
We'll keep an eye out for Mark Cavendish and Thor Hushoff to be left behind.
72 going back with Bernard Eisel.
Good job. Thanks, dude.
We came like to the 1K sign from the top and everybody says, yeah, Kev is still in the first group, and I was like, what?
So now what they've got to do is pull back those two leaders and try and make it a day for Cavendish. That won't be easy.
In my mind, it was 50-50 whether we're going to be able to keep it up or not, because we were taking big risks on these corners.
You know that little thing in your mind that says, kind of, I shouldn't really do that. We don't have that.
George Hincapie into second wheel there. Remember, this is the man who has a suspected broken collarbone, still riding his Tour de France for Cavendish. There is the catch at 1.2 kilometres from the line.
Everybody from our team was fucked, even me, but I knew Kev was directly in back of me. I started to go then, full gas as long as I could.
The leader, Tony Martin, he's all over his bike. He needs half of the road, and he's just going 53.11 and something.
Cavendish needs to win it for the boys this afternoon because they did a great job for him.
This is going to be an almost slow motion sprint because now they've seen the hill and they've got to hang on in there as long as possible. Mark Cavendish can't possibly hold this on for this far, can he?
Yes! This man really tried this afternoon, Phil. Just look at that. He pushed himself so far.
That was great, man.
I think that was one of the key of our success, because if you don't feel good during 3 weeks, it's not possible to do something good during the race. So the race is maybe 5 hours a day, but after that you have to live with a big group with more than 30 persons, everybody together in the same hotel, and everybody at the breakfast together, the dinner together. So it's important to have a great atmosphere, and with Team Colombia it's perfect. It's more than a work atmosphere, it's a friend atmosphere, and I like it. I like that.
Viva la Colombia! Mark and our super team, and ticka-taka, ticka-taka! Hey, hey, hey! Ticka-taka, ticka-taka! Hey, hey, hey! Ticka-taka, ticka-taka! Hey, hey, hey!
This, Paul, is Saturday in Provence in the month of July. We've been here many times before on Mont Ventoux. I've never seen a crowd like this. It's a storied mountain, steeped in Tour history and feared by all. In the 1967 Tour, former world champion Tom Simpson pushed himself so hard he collapsed 2 kilometres from the summit. He died trying to win that day, so the desire to win there is incredible.
13 riders up the road, 13 riders with Panzerwagen in 40 seconds.
It was always going to be a battle of Mont Ventoux amongst the top 4 or 5 men. But you see, when you get that situation and nobody else can break into that cluster of 5 men, other riders attack. As they hit these pedals in front of the biggest crowd we've ever seen on the slopes of Mont Ventoux, and I've got a feeling this crowd will go right to the top. Juan Manuel Garate, former champion of Spain, who rides for the Dutch Rabobank squad, he jumped early on. He was chased by Tony Martin, who's going to be a wonder kid. He's going to be a great bike rider. He's got a super future in front of him, but he went after Garate, who's a known climber.
Come on, Tony, you can fucking do it. Come on, but you're gonna eat shit. Come on, Tony.
Fuck, you're gonna go so deep like never before. Fantastic ride. Come on, you will win this shit. Come on, Tony.
Geraghty and Tony Martin, the heroes of a full day in the lead. Yes, there were 16 at one stage. These are the last two. They will throw every punch they've got left in the Tour now, and the result will be the final shuffling of the classification. We've got a banner up here, and I'm not sure what it will be, because it's got nothing on it. It should say 1 kilometre to go. I don't see a kite. This is the finish now, and Geraghty a little bit stronger, much more experienced than Tony Martin, a rider who we think one day could win the Tour de France. Today he'll finish second on Mont Ventoux because Geraghty, the first man to attack the mountain, has finished it off. He's got the stage win. Now the times that matter are right here. As they come up to the line, it is Andy Schleck. Contador salutes as winner of the Tour de France, and Armstrong is there. What a race we have seen. Martin was just too young to be the man to win. Geraghty was the old experienced hand and the better climber on the day. But Martin showed us on that day, he gave his all. Mont Ventoux requires you give all. It's a horrible climb, it's a horrible mountain.
Ah, scheiße.
I don't really think you have the decision all alone to be a legend, become a legend. You cannot plan it. Just being like a stereotypical rider that goes, okay, I pushed 475 watts and I won this race. Nobody wants to hear that. People want to say, I was suffering so much and then I just didn't listen to that inner voice that told me to stop, and I just give it a go, and I did one more time and I was almost dying and I pulled it off. That's what people inspires. Just reminds me on that movie Gladiator, when the guy, you know, the old gladiator to the young one says, hey, I was the best gladiator because I won the crowd. That's a big part of it. People gotta love you because they make you into a legend, you know?
Everybody's got pressure today, whether it's try to hold their spot or stay out of trouble. Or, for sure we'll have a little bit more than most on today because we got to control the race, but the first 3 hours should be pretty easy anyway. Normally nobody attacks, they just ride around and do like a parade.
The Champs-Élysées is worldwide known as the finish of the Tour de France. If you make that Champs-Élysées, you finish the Tour de France, you completed the most grueling sporting event on the planet.
Now it's time, it's over. And he locks me. People are stressed, angry, and all because they are just tired.
Of course, you went into Champs-Élysées. Everybody expect we would win. And when you just started, then Ries, he was coming next to me. I opened the window, and there was a Danish Prime Minister, Lars Løkke. He said, hey, you guys gonna win today. So it really helps. Cheers. Congratulations.
Cheers.
It was a pleasure as always.
Congratulations for a little bit. Come on.
I tried personally 10 times with Zabel and it never worked, so...
Yeah, but it's not the same.
Okay, enjoy it. Thanks.
For 3 weeks, the peloton in the Tour de France have been seeking out Paris. They have found the city today. You could say this is a perfect day to end the Tour de France this year.
Alberto Contador won the Tour de France, followed that up by the Tour of Italy, the Tour of Spain, and now he's added his number 4 is the Tour de France for a second time.
Well, Lance Armstrong's been this way many times before, 7 times as a winner. Now he's sitting just in front of the next winner of the Tour de France, his teammate Contador.
As we go under the pinnacle of the Place de la Concorde, here we are right onto the slopes now of the Champs-Élysées.
Here we go, attacks have started. This is Barredo here, who's made the first move.
You can see all of a sudden, despite Phil, that we had a very slow start to the race, it is on. And on the downhill section, they are touching 55 kilometers an hour, which is a remarkable speed when you think that these guys have been racing for 3 weeks.
And it's brought the whole of the Columbia team to the front. And right behind Mark Cavendish is his arch rival for the green jersey, Thor Hushovd of Norway.
Just let them hang a little bit more, just let them cook a little bit more. Bloody good job, gentlemen. Really good job.
It's going to be left now to Columbia to do all of the work here to catch these riders.
Start to bring it down, slowly but surely. Okay, start to bring time gap down. Come on, gentlemen.
The main field is charging across the Place de la Concorde, and now they can actually estimate the distance between themselves and that leading group of 7, and they can understand how much pressure they need to put on to pull them back into the fold before the finish.
Stay together, you're gonna ride till drop dead. Okay, 1.5 lap, 1.5 lap. Let's come on, guys, you can do it.
All of the sprinters left in this bike race want to win here on the Champs-Élysées. It really is regarded as the place to win if you're a sprinter.
And for Mark Cavendish, in his 3rd Tour de France, he finally gets to see the finish. He retired in the first one and last year indeed.
But so far his team are on the front end of the main field, and they've brought it down to 12 seconds now.
Go on, guys. Last lap, you're gonna eat shit now. You're gonna eat shit now.
There is the bell. It is 1 lap to go to the end of the Tour de France.
There's the train of Team Garmin, Phil.
This is interesting because Garmin Slipstream have tried for 3 weeks how to outwit Mark Cavendish. Everything they've tried has failed, but now they're trying to do something different.
Punches.
This is Mickey Rogers. He's got a mechanical problem.
He's got a back tyre out. Well, that's lost a strong man. There's a little bit of panic amongst HTC at the moment because Cavendish is having to take the full broadside of the other riders around him. Guys, if you don't break up the teamwork of Colombia, you'll never win. Here comes the counter-attack at 1 kilometre to go, and Hincapie has swung the line across to the other side.
Garmin Slipstream over on the inside.
Look at the speed of the riders over the road. This is Mark Renshaw, the fastest lead-out man in the business, and there's the missile. He's locked onto his wheel now. This is going to be a formality. He has got the victory, and no British cyclist has ever been remotely close.
Yes!
Best fucking sprint ever on Champs-Élysées.